of the favorite Java interview questions, that is constructor chaining. This can be asked in many ways. We'll see this with code examples. What is constructor chaining? Constructor chaining refers to invoking one constructor from another within the same class or across class hierarchies. And this is done to basically minimize redundancy. And how do you do it? There are two ways. Within the same class, you'll use this to call another constructor, and in case of inheritance, super is used. So let's see a code example. So here I have a class test which has three instance variables, input 1, input 2 and input 3, and I have provided three constructors, which means this class can be constructed or an object can be created using any of these three constructors. In the first one, I am providing just one input. In the second one, 2, and the last one has 3 input variables. Okay, if I provide just one input, then it calls the second constructor. It is initializing the second value, which is input 2. Okay, and input 2, so the second constructor will call the third constructor, where it initializes the input 3 value to 4. Right, so you see the first constructor calling the second one, second is calling the third one, and this is where the test is class object is created. So this is nothing but constructor chaining. Let's run this to see exactly how it works. So here I've created 3 objects. The first one where all 3 input variables are provided, the second one has only 2, and the last one has only 1. So as you can see, to create the first test object, only the constructor 3 is called. In the second case, we had to call the third and the second one. So the second constructor here chains and calls the third one, okay, giving the input 3, 4 value, and then it comes back, says constructor 2 is called, and the object is created. For the third object, you call all the 3 constructors. So this is constructor chaining within the same class. But there's one tricky question that people will be asked in interviews and candidates get confused. If you have 3 constructors defined here, can I create a class, an object, without providing a parameter? Okay, and the answer is no. There is no default constructor that is provided by Java once you define a constructor. If you define a constructor, parameterized or not, you will have no default constructor provided by Java. If I try to run this, it will give me an error saying that no constructor is present for this particular object. If I want this to work, then I'll have to define another constructor over here which doesn't take any input, and then I can initialize all the 3 values. Now let's go to the second point in constructor chaining, which is related to inheritance. So I've taken an example of page object model over here. In case of page object models, we create a object for every page, which inherits or which extends the base class. So over here you can see that the constructor for a page is calling the super class. Super means the constructor of the base page. So this is also a constructor chaining. The child class is calling the constructor of the base class. So here in my base class, I am initializing the driver, and this I've done for every page. So it will call the base class constructor. So this is constructor chaining when it comes to inheritance. So when you get this question in an interview, you have to explain it and then also give a code example, and this is a perfect example in case of a page object model.